Years ago, a friend of mine invited me to his house. I, Siddharth, being the innocent teenager, went to his house. He served me food, cola, sweets, and everything in between. He wasn't this kind before, but he buttered me. And then came his father, who invited me to join a scheme to become rich. Not the Akshay Kumar's 25 din mein paisa double wala scheme. As I would get to know later, it was the famed MLM pyramid scheme. I was as innocent as they come. And yet, I backed out of it somehow because I had the hunch that it was not right. However, certain Indian journalists in their childhood failed to have any similar hunches and therefore must have fallen prey to such tactics with routine frequency. I seriously feel sorry for them. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm Siddharth, your host. In this video, I will tell you about New York Times' hilarious attempts to blame Nidhi Razdan's Harvard scam on Hindu nationalists. Let's begin. Nidhi Razdan, a graduate of the NDTV School of Clowns, thought she was getting hired as a professor at Harvard. Yes, Harvard. Not Amity, IPU or DU. A Harvard over telephonic interviews. To be honest, I got internships through a much more cutthroat recruitment processes. Anyway, almost a year ago, we at TFI reported how Razdan revealed that she was scammed into believing that she has been offered a teaching position at Harvard University. Well, now coming to her rescue, New York Times has published a full feature-length report. Talk about privilege, huh? Quoting NYT verbatim, it took them almost a year to cut through the clutter to investigate the case. Now, NYT might be racist, xenophobic, partisan, or several hundred mean things, but it sure did good, insightful investigative reports in the past. After all, the same publications unearthed several big political scams in the last few decades. So, I dived into the exposed piece of who tried to scam our dear Nidhi, thinking NYT must have nabbed the culprits, and all we as readers had to do was pull the trigger. However, turns out the article is as bad as my 5-year-old niece drawing a photo of me at a family gathering. I'm not joking. I'm forced to applaud her, but deep down, I know she should not try as an artist in the future. Coming to the article, which is aptly titled, "That Job at Harvard is Not Real," and written by a big team of 3 members. One sees the shade of poor and amateur journalism. The article concedes that the identity of the scamsters is not known and that BJP leader Nighat Abbas had warned about the scam. Moreover, the article says that a phone number's location was in the UAE and one guy even sounded like a Pakistani, while an IP address was traced to an ISI hacking group. And yet, the blame is squarely piled upon the Modi government. Not directly, but you get the gist of how NYT insinuates things, right? The article repeatedly uses the term Hindu nationalist while referring to the Modi government and the BJP, making a clear insinuation on the political leaning of the unknown culprits. I continue to read. After all, I'm an Agatha Christie fan, and whodunits excite me. However, the article never got over the narcissism of its writers, who somehow felt invincible for having investigated a scam, which no one really asked for. It felt like I was reading a poorly crafted Indian comic in the late 90s, which plagiarized the content from a much superior Western comic. The article mentioned that Nidhi Razdan was not the only target, but unfortunately was the sole victim. Remember my MLM story? Yeah, that makes sense now, right? According to NYT, the first known target was the wire journalist Rohini Singh, who was contacted by one Tausif Ahmed claiming to be from Harvard University. Tausif and Singh got chatting, but even the alleged 2 BHK did her investigation and came to the conclusion that it was a scam and ceased communication. Imagine a person who serenades Akhilesh Kumar knowing it was a scam and still backing away, but NDTV alumni does not understand. The article continues and states that the next target was the print columnist Zainab Sikandar. Sikandar ignored that the numbers were not from Boston, as the scammers claimed, and that they sounded Pakistani. She continued the conversation. However, when she repeatedly asked for a formal invitation and the scammers failed to furnish one, even Zainab seized all communication channels. While everything up to here was the filler, the main spice came when NYT mentioned that the 4th target was BJP spokesperson Nighat Abbas. I mean, the conversation of the entire scam being plotted by Hindu nationalist government falls flat when they start targeting their own, but NYT said, "Nah, it will be fine," and continued to blame the Modi government. In fact, Nighat Abbas was the one who first alerted Harvard about the scam. All other targets in the scam are journalists heavily critical of the BJP and the Modi government. Therefore, Nighat Abbas stands out as the odd one. Nighat Abbas had posted a video on Twitter on November the 29th in 2019 detailing the scam being conducted by Tausif Ahmed. She had said that Tausif can be a scam master or even maybe a terrorist, and it is a serious threat to people because he was trying to public the personal information of his targets. However, Nidhi Razdan proceeded with the scam and in a pompous tone announced that she was leaving NDTV to go teach at Harvard. Throughout the intervening months, Nidhi proudly paraded her new Harvard job around. Now, it is notable that the scamsters had made Nidhi Razdan install TeamViewer on her computer, which allows remote controlling of a computer, enabling others to access files and install the malware in the target computer. Now, if one thought that NYT was an independent media organization that did not believe in people worship, then please hear this joke of a paragraph describing the acute victim and the protagonist of the article. Over a career spanning more than 20 years, she had covered India's biggest stories as the country transformed itself into an economic powerhouse. She was polite but fearless, the anchor of the 9 o'clock news program on NDTV, one of India's most prominent independent news channels, a familiar face across a nation of 1.4 billion people. I nearly popped my neck vein, laughing my guts out reading this romantic piece. And the conversation did not stop here. Nidhi Razdan shared the article on her Twitter account and started fielding sympathy statements from a bunch of strangers. One Dushyant said people owed Nidhi an apology, to which she replied with a heart emoji. Sir, respectfully asking, to what do we owe an apology to her? For having a chuckle, which we all are well within our rights. My grandfather, who is entering his 8th decade on the planet, does not click on shorty links after being advised once and having learned WhatsApp only a year ago. And yet, a supposed journalist with 20 years worth of experience fell prey to an elaborate conman scheme when 3 others escaped from it unharmed. Nidhi Razdan was not outdone by scam artists. She was outdone by her overconfidence in her abilities. She thought that she could be a Harvard employee without having the desired qualifications for it. Ma'am, we will respectfully ask you to get a few more degrees under your belt, in addition to a diploma course of how not to get scammed on Internet 101, before you apply for Harvard again. As for NYT, the less said the better. The fall from grace for NYT has been catastrophic, and wasting a year and resources investigating a case only to draw a conclusion that the victim was an idiot does look pretty bad on the publication's resume.